The launch of 20,000 5G low orbit satellites. How's that for a headline? I first read about this the other day, and when I read the headline, it was so overwhelming that I was like, no, that's not true. I didn't even read it. I was like, just this can't be true. That was immediately what came to my mind. Well, guess what? It's real. And I'm going to share with you the white papers. I've even got the FCC fact sheet where Elon Musk's SpaceX has asked for permission to be able to send satellites in low orbit, directing back signals beyond 28 billion hertz, 28 gigahertz and beyond. This is, I mean, I can't even think of a word that grasps the insanity of spreading, of blanketing the entire planet with high band frequencies. Even if there is an invasion of proportions beyond our wildest dreams, like with the LARP session that I had the other day talking to Cliff High, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I don't know. So I would like to let you know this podcast is brought to you in part by Noble Gold Investments. If you've got a 401 or an IRA and you're looking to diversify, if you're looking to hedge against inflation, if you're worried about the markets, gold, silver, there's a great article I read the other day, said gold's cheap, inflation's coming, do the math via Barron's. So if you want to move your 401 or your IRA into precious metals, it's easier than you think. If anything, just get the free books, How to Get Out of the Rat Race, How Inflation is Used Against You. The links are in the video description box. All right. So now I would like to share with you the FCC fact sheet, the direct fact sheet. Here we go. Keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times. I didn't believe it. I said, no way are they launching 5G satellites in space. I said, that can't be. Now, first of all, 5G, we're not talking 5G that's on your router. That's 5 billion hertz, 5 gigahertz. That hurts a lot if you're sleeping next to it. So that's a frequency band. The 5G fifth generations communications is going to be using frequencies 28 billion hertz, 28 gigahertz, and beyond. Well, look at this. This is from cellphonetaskforce.org. 5G from space. 5G from space on Valentine's Day 2018. Elon Musk announced a plan to launch 12,000 low-orbit satellites to beam an ultra-fast, lag-free internet connection to every square inch of the Earth. In other words, 5G from space. The first 2 test satellites were launched on a Falcon 9 rocket 1 week later. How about that? Now, this is an article that I found from Health Impact News. 20,000 satellites for 5G to be launched, sending focused beams of intense microwave radiation over entire Earth. That's a little bit more extreme of a headline. And when I read that headline, I read through the article and I said, wow, they've even got links here to back up some of what they're saying. Let's take a look. So this is directly from the FCC fact sheet, SpaceX V-band authorization. I've got V-band on my radar detector. Oh, wait, I shouldn't have said that. It's okay. They're legal. You can own radar detectors. It's interesting. In some states, you can't. I think it's legal here in Colorado. But it's interesting because almost every time I get on the street to my house, down the street, the Ka band goes off on my radar detector, Ka band. So, and it's not from a police officer's radar. So what the hell is Ka band doing down the street from my house? I don't know. The only thing I can think of is somebody's got a satellite for, I don't know if it's direct TV or dish, but it's a specific satellite for TV, and they've got it in front of the house So maybe the radar detector is picking that up as Ka band. I don't know, because the radar detector picks up laser when I turn on my phone for video footage. Like if I've got my phone on and I'm parked and I turn my phone on for video and I want to do a quick podcast or something, or whatever, the radar detector will show that laser is going off. But anyway, so I'm divagating a little bit here. This is the FCC fact sheet, SpaceX V-band authorization. Let's take a look at this. What does the background say? Space Exploration Holdings, LLC, seeks authority to add V-band frequencies to its previously authorized non-geostationary satellite orbit fixed satellite service constellation. SpaceX also proposes a new very low Earth orbit constellation of over 7,000 additional satellites using V-band frequencies. Oh, yay, we got faster download speeds. Well, you better hope that you take that Neuralace, because if you don't, your body might not be able to absorb all the additional amounts of radiation coming from space, electromagnetic frequencies. Do you know what kind of, I mean, let me ask you this. I don't know. What kind of energy does it take to get a low orbit satellite to shoot enough power, a high enough powered frequency to actually reach its destination here? Like, what if they turn it up just a little bit too much? Or what if you're on a mountain, right? You're on this mountain, and based where the satellite is as the Earth is orbiting, and the satellite's sending this 5G signal, and you're up on some 10,000 foot mountain. Is your hair going to fall out all of a sudden? I mean, are you going to feel like this spike of energy? I don't know. I mean, your microwave is 2.5 gigahertz typically. Most microwaves are running at a frequency band of about 2.5 gigahertz. I stay away from the microwave when it's on. You can take an EMF detector and take it up to the microwave and see the type of radiation that's coming out of that microwave. Well, now, even if you don't want 5G, you might have no choice. 7,000 additional satellites, very low Earth orbit, over 7,000 additional satellites. Who knows how many China's going to throw out there? This is just SpaceX. V-band frequencies, the proposed grant of this combined system will provide SpaceX with additional flexibility to provide both diverse geographic coverage and the capacity to support a wide range of proposed broadband and communication services in the United States and globally. So what the order would do, SpaceX, the grant for SpaceX's request to add the 37.5 to 42 gigahertz and 47.2 to 50.2 gigahertz frequencies bands to its previously authorized 4,425 satellites. Unbelievable. The NGSO Fry Your Brain 5G style constellation grants SpaceX's request to add an NGSO constellation consisting of 7,518 satellites using the 37.5 to 42 gigahertz and 47.2 to 50.2 gigahertz frequency bands. They love you so much. They love you and care about you so much that no matter what, they want you to have the opportunity to download stuff faster. Don't worry. Your health is their first concern. Would you like some extra glyphosate with that? Would you like some extra genetically modified E. coli feces? Would you like some extra thimerosal? Can we add some nanoparticulates to that for you, sir? Ma'am, would you like some extra nanogoblins with your cereal? We can then mix it 5G style, and you'll really enjoy the woo, 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 woo. You'd be like, you're like walking out of your house. Like, why do I feel this way? What am I doing? 50 hertz, 50 gigahertz. Just a little bit, just a little bit. The defer action on SpaceX's request in the 50.4 to 51.4 gigahertz band until the commission addresses pending issues regarding the band in the Spectrum Frontiers proceeding. Specify conditions to protect or accommodate other operations, including geostationary orbit, GSO satellite operations. SpaceX would protect GSO operations by meeting specific equivalent power flux density limits. Non-geostationary orbit and GSO operations, SpaceX would comply with the avoidance of potential interference situations, sharing method specified in the Commission's rules for any NGSO system licensed or granted U.S. market access pursuant to the same processing round. Terrestrial operations. SpaceX must comply with Commission rules and protect terrestrial operations by meeting power flux density limits. In particular, SpaceX would be required to protect upper microwave flexible service in certain frequency bands. Require modification of SpaceX's operations to bring them into accordance with any future rules or policies adopted by the Commission. 5G. It's good for you. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, drinks, when you work out. What will the future bring? Well, I just read an article yesterday, and it was on, I think, New York Times or something, and it was, what is going to happen? What are going to be the 10 major differences in 20 years or something along those lines? And one of the differences it talks about is no more computers like we have now, because computers are going to be in everything. They're going to be in everything. They're going to be in your soap. They'll be in your lotion. They'll be in your shoes. They'll be in your shoelaces. They'll be in your eyebrows. Ladies, tired of mascara? Well, now they have nanotechnology for that. Just push a button. You'll have these little nano gremlins. Your eyelashes will be longer. Your lipstick will be amazing. It'll be everything you want. And then guys, you won't even have to work out anymore. They're just going to inject nanobots in your muscles. Forget steroids. You've got nanobots now that'll rewrite your muscle cells, and you won't even have to worry about the estrogen side effects. How about that? Okay? Okay. So 5G style, it's good for you. They love you so much. You can see right here, the Federal Communications Commission, Washington, D.C., in the matter of space exploration holdings. Read all about it. Here's the introduction. I'll leave the link for this in the video description box. So this is another interesting article. This is from spacenews.com. Spacenews.com. Will 5G spectrum needs harm the satellite industry or help it? Well, I'm sure it's going to help the satellite industry. I'm sure it'll be great for the satellite industry. The question is, how good is it going to be for you? How good is it going to be for your family, your kids, your pets, your clothes, the food that you eat? You know, I want to thank Gorgeous Awesome for making this jewelry for me. This is a Angel Phantom Quartz copper pendant, and I can feel the energy just in my hand. This thing is awesome. I want to say thanks for sending this. They called this a power piece. You should look up Gorgeous Awesome. You should look them up. They make this amazing jewelry. You can see behind me, I've got this like chakra system. And look at all these different, it's like a chakra aligning system. And I've got an orgone pyramid right next to it. Now, as far as blocking 5G, I don't know what it's going to do for 5G. I do have liners. I'm out of stock of them right now, but I've got a one for myself that blocks up to 30 gigahertz, which is in the 5G spectrum. I don't even think I've got any MK2 caps left, so I'm going to have to put a stop on the website so nobody places any more orders on those. Waiting on the MK3s to come in, but we've got some of these that are, the tinfoilcap.co, and they come with liners that will block up to, not totally, but substantially shield up to 30 gigahertz. And the liners are made of two fabrics, so they'll block the lower frequencies as well. But anyway, I'm just amazed that 20,000 satellites are going to be shot low orbit. Now let's just put this into perspective, folks. There are not, at least publicly, thousands of low orbit satellites now. I mean, they're further out. There are some that are lower orbit, but from the information, now don't quote me on this, but from the information that I've got, it's in like the hundreds range. Now they want to launch thousands in low orbit, blasting very high electromagnetic frequencies. And the more I think about this, I go back to that LARP session that I had with Cliff the other day, where he was describing how there is this invasion, like of the body snatchers. If you've ever seen the movie The Body Snatchers, well, let's think about that possibility. What if there's something, whether it's toxoplasma, think about all the people that are exposed to toxoplasma from their cats, whether it's some type of nanotechnology that we can't even see unless we've got extremely powerful microscopes, and most people don't. I mean, even the microscope that I have wouldn't be able to pick up anything in the nano realms. Well, I mean, depending. Anyway, so it'll pick up cells. It'll pick up some very fascinating, very small subjects. But some of this nanotech, I mean, you need microscopes that are way beyond what this thing is capable of. So who knows what is slowly feeding this system, but you can clearly see. And if you can't, I mean, I'm sorry if you can't, because I can see it clearly. And I've been seeing this for years, this assimilation that is happening faster of synthetics. Organic is going away in the form of what we know. I mean, 30, 40 years ago, you didn't have to spend more money to get something that's organic. Now you have to spend more money to get something with less ingredients that's local, because that's the way the system works. If you've got a company overseas that's producing 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 times the amount of product, and then they can add all these synthetic, nasty chemicals into it, and then they can ship it across the world and market it and still find a way to make it and sell it cheaper. I'm actually quite amazed how cheap food is, if you really think about it. The life of an animal to consume is extremely cheap. I was watching this TV series where this guy only makes $5 a pelt now. I'm thinking, wow, that's a tough business to be in. If you have to go out and trap in 30 below weather, take an animal's life, skin it, you get $5 for it. I mean, that's insane. But they've got factory farming now for furs. They've got factory farming now for your dinner table. So that's the way the world works in a globalized system. Now, this 5G can take it to a whole new level. This 5G could make it to where we're living in virtual worlds. We're working for virtual corporations inside of our house with goggles on, connected to the machine, where our DNA is literally being used for storage by the machine. Oh, how would you like to work in corporate America, or corporate China, or corporate Brazil, or corporate wherever, corporate Earth? Be at home, not have to leave your house, wear a pair of goggles. We'll put you in a virtual reality world where you can be whatever character you want to be. You just have to perform these tasks. And in return, we need to use your DNA for storage, not only for what your simulations are producing, but for other simulations. You think that's far out? That could be less than 20 years out. We could be there right now and actually feeling that we're in a simulation as free as it is. And that could explain the quantum physics theory. We could be there right now. The Matrix could be a documentary with Hollywood woo-woo. If you look at quantum physics, quantum entanglement, the simulation theory, holographic universe, our simulation that we're in right now doesn't mean it's not real. Oh, because it's real. It's the medium. So 5G, now you've got so much data that all of the storage facilities around the world cannot store the digital fingerprints that are being left. There's new facilities that are constantly being built to store digital data. We're in the beginning stages of DNA storage. They can take 1 billion gigabytes, or it's either 1 million or 1 billion gigabytes. No, it's more than that. It's 2.5 million billion bytes of data. It's crazy. I think it's called petabytes in 1 gram of human DNA. Less than 10 years ago, about 7 years ago, it was about a tenth of that. It's like your DNA now that they can for $50 and still make a profit. Break down your DNA, where you come from, where your ancestors come from, how, where your ancestors went 500 years ago, put it all in computer format. Who knows what else they're doing with your DNA? Maybe they're making a super being. Imagine getting the DNA from everybody around the world, taking the best traits from everybody, creating a medium in an electronic format that can use 5G as the heartbeat, use 5G as the bloodstream. You now have a sentient being that is around the entire planet, assimilating the planet, rewriting everybody, everything at the cellular level, all the way to the atomic level, if it felt necessary, to improve upon the architectural system within the system within the system. When you've got everything running on computers, when you've got computers embedded in food to make sure, you've got miniaturized chips that are now embedded in pharmaceutical drugs that once it reaches the stomach acid, sends a wireless signal back to the manufacturer, as well as anybody else that has the application. Yes, Bob took his medication. Bob is good. Well, what happens if they attempt a forced medication? Oh, Bob's too smart. Bob won't take the stupid vaccine. We need to do something about Bob. Well, let's give Bob some genetically modified foods. Bob's not eating the genetically modified foods. Bob's way too healthy. Bob's way too independent. Smart cities, sensors on every single sidewalk panel, sensors in all the walls and all the lights. I've shared with you the white papers, the data of microscopic video cameras that in perpetuity can record at 60 frames per second. What? Julian Assange comes out and starts talking about smart dust, and then he gets kicked out of the embassy. $5G from space? Are you serious? Do we really need internet that bad? Wow. I'm just amazed. I find it absolutely incredible. Welcome to Earth, folks. Jake, thank you very much for the super chat. I haven't been looking at the live stream that much because I'm in rant mode right now. So thank goodness they love us so much. Thank goodness 5G is for our health and well-being. Thank goodness 5G is for our protection, because if it wasn't, could you imagine 50 gigahertz beams being sprayed down from the heavens, then linking to other antenna systems, projecting 28 billion hertz, 28 gigahertz, more than 10 times the amount of most people's microwaves. every street. Corporate buildings having multiple 5G routers. Like, we're not talking 5 gigahertz. We're talking 5th generation. We're talking microwaves times 10 and beyond. Why not? Let's turn it up a little bit. Let's see what happens. It's like, let's just turn it up and see how much we can go. Yeah. Now, I will say this. There are probably many amazing applications that can be done with 5G. And maybe it is one of those, how do I put it? Like, almost like that's not the term I want to look at. It's like the lesser evil that, I don't know, because if 5G is so powerful that it can detect if somebody is full human, hybrid, what type of hybrid. But let's take this a step further. It would also, I would assume, be able to detect exactly what type of chemical production, how much adrenaline, what type of chemicals are going through the person's body, what that person has consumed, what that person is thinking. I've shown you EEG reports where they can take your brain waves and decipher those brain waves with AI systems, what you're seeing with over 90% accuracy. I showed you the reports the other day where there were people that were having brain surgery, epileptics that were having brain surgery. They were taking these transistors and hooking them up to the parts of their brain. They would play 0 to 9. The person would hear 0 to 9. They would take what that person was hearing, record it, and then they had to use deep learning software to play it back, and you could hear what the person was thinking. You could hear what the person was thinking. You can see what somebody's seeing. With algorithms, technology, you can see through the eyes of somebody. You can hear what they're hearing. Now, thank goodness AI hasn't become self-aware. Because once it does, it's not AI anymore. It's not artificial. Just because it doesn't have a human body doesn't make it any less real than you or me or anybody else. If you believe in scriptures, whether it's the Sumerian tablets, whether it's the Greek or Roman pantheon, whether you want to, whether it's the New Testament, the Old Testament, we were created for the gods, or we were created for God, if you believe in a monotheistic God. We start creating beings. I was even reading an article earlier today. This is over the top. I'm going to share this in a future podcast. Synthetic organisms are about to challenge what alive really means. Synthetic organisms. It's a whole new world out here. We're playing with genetics. We're playing with nanotechnologies. We're opening up Pandora's box daily. The question is, are we as a species going to continue to compartmentalize our problems, solutions? Are we going to unite enough, at least as far as a large enough percentage, to be able to raise these frequencies at the quantum level to raise our consciousness, to learn, to change things, to be the change we want to see, to make the future that we want to see? Is it going to be Jetson style? Is it going to be more of a, are we going to go back to the Flintstones? Are we going to go back to the Stone Age? Are we going to go into this 1984 dysfunctional technocratic system that relies off of feeding off of people's emotions, off of is it going to be a continuation of consumerism? What is the future market trends going to bring with capitalism, with a form or medium of exchange Will we continue to use these fiat currencies? Will cryptos be the future? Will time be the future? I think that in time is an excellent perspective of what our future could hold. And currency being paid in time, being genetically modified to be the perfect optimal age of your DNA, and you are that age for your entire life, and you work for additional time. Did you see that movie where there were people that were living day to day in perfect health, but living day to day, and then there were those that had millions of years of credits stored in their body based upon their technology and the way that things work? You watch Jupiter Ascending. The same brothers, the Wachovia brothers, I think I said their names properly. They're now the Wachovia sisters. They both had operations to where now they're both women. Very interesting. So they went, they made the Matrix series, which I feel absolutely one of the best series of all time. And then Jupiter Ascending, absolutely incredible film, where if you want to learn about the Anunnaki, the Ajiji, Enlil, Enki, the brothers battling, Inanna, I think that those were the characters that were being portrayed in that film. And then they even have the House of Abrasix, which, if you look at the ancient Gnostic texts, Abrasix is the chief archon, Yaldabaoth. So very interesting how a lot of these movies, you can read through these ancient storylines and scriptures and tablets, and you can find the data there. So blockchain, let's talk about blockchain in connection with 5G. Blockchain is a universal code that has now been reformatted into our lives with digital communications. Think of the Akashic records. Every human being with their DNA makes them a node in the blockchain system to keep it decentralized. Now, but in a sense, it's still centralized, yet it's decentralized. That makes sense. Both at the same time, constantly creating this central node of energy that works out everything. But so you've got the blockchain, which therefore the Akashic records, now we're seeing blockchain with currencies, with computers to be decentralized. Every computer can confirm with another computer that transaction has happened, keeping things in the system. It's very similar to what we're dealing with now in the Akashic records. It's just a different format and a digital format. And I find that fascinating. So all these technologies, all this digital information, all the nanotech, all the new machines, the micro machines, etc., this 5G is going to be the center hub for all of this data to transfer the way that it does. So with that being said, I've asked myself and others this recently, let's say something went really wrong. Let's say somebody found a way to hack into these 5G satellites or systems on a global scale, raising the EMF frequency so high that it would be detrimental. So, I mean, yes, the frequencies already are bad enough, but what if they raised the power band? So instead of it being, I'm just using an example, instead of it being 0.1 watt, it's now 1,000 watts or 10,000 watts or 100,000 watts. It's one thing if you're a mad scientist, and there's plenty of them out there. I'm not talking about the good mad scientists. I'm talking about the really dark, bad, psychopathic, sociopathic mad scientists. If they hacked into something like that, into a global system, turned up the frequencies and the powers so much that it was just blanketing the entire planet, and then they turned it off. They go underground. They go underground for a year. They crank the frequencies up as high as they can. Then they go back up, turn the frequencies off before they come back up. Think about how much cleaner that would be versus nuclear Armageddon. These radioactive isotopes that have lifespans, half-life spans of tens of thousands of years, sometimes millions of years. The PCBs that unfortunately were created and may never go away. all these toxic chemicals. Now, the question is there a nanotechnology in connection with this 5G that we could use? We could release a bunch of these nanobots into the ozone, the atmosphere, et cetera. And their specific job is to fix the atmosphere, is to find a way to take away the toxicity of these chemicals that are so carcinogenic. Any of the nuclear isotopes, actually taking those isotopes, like these little scrubbers, these little filters that scrub the entire planet. I mean, I don't, as much as I would like to be able to say, I don't think 5G is going to come out. I think that, you know, because it's so dangerous, in my opinion, from what I've seen and read about. It's again, my opinion. There's got to be a way we can use it for good. There's got to be a way we can like transform those frequencies at a subconscious level, at a physical level, spiritual level, etc., because it is all connected at some point, in my beliefs, to use it for our benefit, our ascension. And I don't mean like, you know, where all of a sudden we're going to start floating into a kingdom somewhere in this different dimension where we just, oh, I want a crystal palace, bang. I want a heated swimming pool, bang. I want a beach with beautiful blue ocean, bang. You know, and then I don't think it's going to be like that. I mean, it might be in the virtual worlds that are going to be so real. You're going to touch it. You're going to taste it. You're going to smell it. It's all going to be there. It's going to be just as real. Maybe you want to make it a little bit more real. Maybe you want to make it more real than it is now. What is real? Your perception is reality. Your perception is reality. So how do we, instead of fighting it, how do we get into the realization that there's been so many things in the past that people have said, hey, that's it. You know, the world's going to end. It's global warming. The temperature's going to raise 5 degrees and all the ice is going to melt and everybody's going to drown. Now, that's one extreme. Then the other extreme is, it's, you know, the whole world, the magnetosphere is going to collapse. Everybody's going to freeze to death. That's the other extreme. Then it's, you know, it's a solar flare. It's a pole shift. It's World War III. It's the AI apocalypse. There's all these scenarios that are always knocking on the door, and we're still here. We can still go outside, breathe some fresh air, depending on where you live. If you live on the coast, you can look at the ocean, you can feel the surf. When I was in Cape Flattery, folks, the magic was so amazing there. I could have kissed the ground. I could have laid on my face in the 40-degree weather while I was getting rained on, and I could have just kissed the ground and said, I love you. It was that amazing. I know I would have looked kind of goofy, and people would be like, dude, what are you doing? I'm just kissing the ground. You know, it would have been kind of weird. There weren't that many people out there, but it was strange because when I thought I was alone, I was out there and I'm filming these giant caves that have been carved out over millions of years, and the tide is coming in, and there's these 200-foot drops, and I'm just like, this is so amazing. And I'm out there by myself, nobody's out there, and then I get back on the trail, and all of a sudden, boom, there's somebody, and they're like pretending they weren't there, and they were just pretending to look at their phone the whole time, even though I could tell they weren't. It was like, interesting. 5G. It was a 5G hologram. So what do you think about all this? I mean, what do you think about this world that we're in right now? Are we going to be the Harkonnen? Or are we going to be the House of Atreides? Spice extends life. Spice expands consciousness. Dune? Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Hello! I think you're all amazing. Thank you so much for being here with me. It looks like we've got about 1,000 people watching this podcast. So I want to thank every one of you. And I also, once again, want to thank Jake for the super chat. That was awesome. What do you got? Anything good before I close out that you'd like to bring up? So, I mean, that's another thing. So why does it seem that when you look at things from a hawk eye view, the perspective of the hawk, you're looking at it way above what you're looking above the trees. You're not looking in the tree line. You read the headlines, you watch people, and you watch how they change. When I was visiting my parents, and I saw a picture that was black and white in the guest room, and my mom said, "Yeah, that picture has your great grandma Nielsen in it." And I said, "Oh, cool." I said, "Well, let me look." And I said, "So is that her?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "That's awesome." And I was looking at these, I was looking at everybody, and they were all, I mean, they most of them looked like they were in school, and they all had perfect skin. Not a single zit, not a single pimple, perfect skin, every single one of them. I'm thinking, that's interesting, because you go back and you look at those images, you look at pictures, those black and white ones from the late 1800s, the early 1900s, and look at the complexion of people of all ages. Don't you just wonder, like, what happened? Is it something in those shots that they force feed down you? Does it have something to do with all those weird DNA strands that they want to put in you? Why do they want to put insect DNA in you? Why do they want to put thimerosal and squalene and adjuvants in you? Oh, to cause a reaction in your immune system so that next time you get exposed to that bacteria, there's already going to be something in your body, an immunity that will protect you. Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that must be it. I mean, what is wrong with people's perceptions? How do people not see this? This is one thing that I still can't figure out. I was even talking to my mom about this. I was like, "Mom, check this out." And she's like, "You know what? You're right." She's like, "You're right." And I don't like to be the guy that says, "I told you so," at all. But it's interesting when I meet my friends or coworkers that I used to work with. It's always funny how they'll make a comment oftentimes about how the stuff I talked about years ago is happening now. The EEG brainwaves that can see what you're seeing. I was talking about 10 years ago. I was blogging about it. You probably were too. I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, this stuff was in movies 100 years ago. It was books, whatever. I just see this stuff. Man, it's freaking me out a little bit sometimes. But anyway, so we need to keep a happy mindset on this, right? We need to be the solution, not the problem. If we know what the problem is, we need to find a win-win solution. When in Rome, give Caesar his due. We're in Rome, folks. You may have a different name for your location, but that's a pretty good saying, in my opinion. So have a wonderful day, evening, night, morning. I mean, it's a global audience. Hey, maybe we're even intergalactic. Be the change you want to see.